Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not? Just why not? Consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, you cheeky so-and-so, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Ooh, feeling a bit spicy today. This first story comes from Slayer Bunny, who says, my fiance's 27, mum, 43, decided she hated me the day I, 24, gave birth to our daughter. 4 months. My fiance and I got engaged and gave ourselves a year to plan the wedding. His mum and I used to sit around and chat sometimes when he was working or volunteering as a firefighter. I really thought she and I developed a friendship. He used to say how amazing it was that she liked me because she has always despised every girl he ever dated. I'm a total people pleaser and have some extreme anxiety issues. I've never been anything but kind and welcoming to her, even though she raised the love of my life on abuse and neglect. The stories of his childhood make me sick to my stomach, and she would sit there and tell them to me as though they were funny. She is a bottle of whiskey a day alcoholic and a gambling addict who uses men who want to keep her head above water financially. She's been married many times. Because my fiance seems to forgive her and is always doing things to take care of her, such as buying her a vehicle and then buying it from her because she wants something else, I figured the best thing I could do was forgive her and let her prove who she is now instead of who she was when he was a child. 6 months into planning our wedding, we found out, thankfully, that we did not have fertility issues and that I was pregnant. We were over the moon and his mother just looked at us, disgusted, and said, "Oh, mind you, my fiancé is her only child and he and I are both educated and work in the medical field. We bought a house during my pregnancy." During my pregnancy, which was very troubled, her mother, fiancé's grandma, died of liver failure last year. I took her to the doctor's appointments and to the emergency room a handful of times, and I made myself available for both mum and grandma to lean on emotionally. I picked up prescriptions and advocated for her at the hospital and at doctor's appointments when she was far gone mentally. When she finally did die, I offered to make a scrapbook for my fiancé and his mother, full of grandma's pictures and artwork she did after she got sick. Less than a month after, I had our baby. His mother was very rude and walked into the room uninvited during my labor, argued about washing her hands before holding my daughter, even though she had literally just come back from smoking one of her many daily cigarettes, and called my fiancé to tell him that I'm a bitch right after she left and then hung up on her own son, who was a brand new dad. I was so welcoming to her when she met my daughter. I was in pain and had new stitches, and there was a computer issue that meant I got the epidural but no meds, needle in my spine but no relief, and an unplanned natural birth. Despite this, I made sure pictures were taken of her holding my daughter for the first time, and once again offered to make that scrapbook for her. She tried to tell everybody, including my fiancé, who knew better, that I went out of my way to make her feel unwanted and unwelcome. Even if I had, which I didn't, give me a break. I just gave birth 15 minutes ago. Ever since then, she has been spreading rumors about me throughout the small town we live in and the family, and getting drunk and sending my fiancé horrible messages that make him feel awful about himself. Stuff like, "You didn't care about your grandma and now she's dead," even though he did so much for her and loved her dearly, and slipping in mean little comments about me. She never visits our daughter and blames me, saying she can't deal with what a bitch I am, because I know she hates me now. I've worked even harder to be on her good side and make her comfortable. She refuses to accept me and I don't understand what happened. P.S. My fiancé says she's a dumb child who can't take care of herself and that talking to her about her behavior is completely pointless, a lesson he learned a long time ago. When she calls me names, he stands up for me, but otherwise he tries to ignore it. However, he obviously cares about her because he does a ridiculous amount of stuff for her. He recently said that she can eat shit if she's going to ignore our daughter and treat us both like this, but he still does stuff for her and takes abuse from her. Now this to me just feels like an absolute no contact situation. Why would you want someone who's going to treat you like absolute shit around you or your daughter? And your partner clearly has some issues, how he can't back away from her and needs to seek some therapy of some sort, because you mentioned about the abuse and neglect he's faced, but you yourself absolutely don't have to try and make it up to her, please her in any way. Remember to protect yourself and your daughter in this situation. But Bugs doing things says in quotes, because I know she hates me now. I've worked even harder to be on her good side and make her comfortable. And then says, nope, stop that right now. You cannot nice her into being a good person. She's an adult making a choice about how to behave. Being nice when she treats you like dog shit only rewards her for treating you like dog shit. She used abusive tactics to keep your fiancé dancing on a string, and now she's got you on the string too. She will only change if she chooses to change. You can't make that happen. You can only keep yourself and your child out of the blast radius as much as possible. I strongly encourage you to visit r/justknowmother-in-law for some advice on protecting your new family and setting boundaries. Grandma suddenly turning into a witch on wheels when the grandchild arrives is sadly a very, very, very common phenomenon. Whether it's because they sense a whole new avenue for control and manipulation, or because they realize their son has now fully moved on to another woman. OP replies saying, the reason I was responding this way was because she's totally nice to my face. It's all behind my back. I didn't want to give her any real reason or something to misunderstand. It seems so weird to me that she'd care if he's moved on because she abandoned him for men when he was little at the drop of a hat. She never treated him like he was a priority at all. And I guess that's because she was getting all the attention from that other person then, and as soon as she lost that attention, it was back to getting it from her son. Wow. Doughchild says, yeah, it sounds like your fiancé knows her tactics, but that you're from a healthy home and didn't get the lessons. Talking is indeed pointless. Stop trying to get in her good graces. You did the worst thing you could to her. You gave your fiancé a new focus. When he was single, she could be babied. Now you gave her competition by giving him an actual baby. That tie to you is now forever. Before you were just girlfriend and bedmate he could get rid of. You should have a conversation with him about boundaries and how much you should both try for this family relationship. Perhaps he needs to help her less and do more for you and his daughter. She doesn't appreciate the attention she's getting now, and if you both make agreements and stick to it, you can protect your little family from her moods. The Just Know Mother-in-Law Reddit has some horrifying stories about women like your mother-in-law and how to deal with it. At the moment she thinks you're a weak person and pushover. You need to change that perception. And one more comment from Baffled Soap, who says you need to step back and look at this from a new angle. Currently you're really swept up in why doesn't mother-in-law like me? What can I do better to make mother-in-law like me again? Aside from the fact that mother-in-law is clearly a manipulative human being that is not going to change, you have a child to consider now. Reading about how mother-in-law treated her own son and how she acted in the hospital when it was time to meet her grandchild. Why on earth are you fighting for her to spend more time around your child? You need to protect that baby from exactly the kind of person mother-in-law is. It was a blessing that she said she didn't want to be around your baby. But you're so caught up with why she doesn't like you. People pleaser tendencies that you didn't even see that. It's hard for me to fathom why you're trying so hard to be friends with toxic, alcoholic mother-in-law before baby came, and why you put their ungrateful needs before your own during your own pregnancy. Your fiancé isn't ready to deal with the reality of the situation, so you're enabling him. That's bad on its own, but now that there's a child in the picture, it's time for your fiancé to work on all that. Your child should not have to have a toxic grandmother in his/her life because your adult fiancé isn't ready to come to terms with his mother and set some appropriate boundaries. You said your heart breaks just hearing how your fiancé was raised. Imagine watching the same patterns happening to your own baby because your fiancé isn't ready to stand up for himself. Sorry if this is a bit harsh, it's just so important that you both work on your issues head on now that there's a baby involved. Otherwise, your child may be put in some terrible situations because you and your fiancé are so focused on winning back someone that will likely be abusive and horrible to your baby. Then OP went on to update the post, which says, so there were over 26k views and over 500 comments on my original post, so I wanted to update you kind people who gave me advice. The story, we got engaged and planned to have our wedding a year later. We had fertility worries that were alleviated 6 months into planning, so we postponed for another year so I could feel pretty in my dress and not be sick. I thought I had developed a good relationship with my fiance's mother, and I went very far out of my way to establish that with her. I helped take care of her mother when she was dying and all sorts of stuff. The day my baby was born, she decided I'm a bitch and started making up awful stories about me. She was trying to turn the family, including my partner, against me, and things steadily got worse and worse. Update. I took a lot of the advice I was given and created tighter boundaries for her relating to my daughter. I chose to avoid seeing her, mother-in-law, as much as I could. She continued to spread rumors and drunkenly call my fiance to tell him what a horrible bitch I was, but she had very little available ammo to twist up because she hadn't seen me since I made the original post. Then the universe smiled upon me and she moved to a different state. She drove off yesterday to live where gambling is illegal and to live in an alcohol-free house. Hopes are high that she will either change or just not be around much. When we went to say goodbye, she pretended I wasn't even there, and it was clear that she filled my uncle-in-law and cousin-in-law's heads with lies about me because they were much less friendly than they used to be. But honestly, over all this was probably the best case scenario for an outcome. My baby and my partner are what matter most. Thank you all for your advice and perspective. We will see how things go from here, but it was nice to learn that even his mother couldn't turn my partner against me. He is happy she moved. He hopes the best for her and loves her, but does not hurt over her living 1,000 miles away. Thank you all again. You people are what made me realize it wasn't my fault. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account who says, I, 30 female, am sitting in the back of my RV as my husband, 32 male, rants about how lovely the trip would be if I hadn't joined him. This might be confusing, but I will try my best to be clear. I'm typing this on my tablet, so please forgive me for any spelling or grammar mistakes. Just to note, this is the first time that an issue like this has come up in our marriage, and I do not know what to do. I've been writing romance novels since I was in college. I was a relatively successful author and have made a living off selling my novels ever since. I do not make a lot of money, but I do bring home $40,000 a year in book sales. This allows me to stay at home during the day so I can write and also make crafts to sell in my Etsy shop. A few years after college, I met Tim and we instantly hit it off. We dated for 3 years before tying the knot, and we bought a house shortly after. Tim makes his living off investments and stocks. However, we keep our finances separate. This is because Tim inherited a vast amount of money from his family, and before we married, I signed a prenup agreement in order to ease his mind. We both contribute an equal share to the joint bank account for bills. Then we use the remainder of our money for ourselves. About a year ago, I landed a contract to write part of a romance series. The contract was huge and the payout was over $120,000 for a few months' work. I contributed my share to the joint account and then I put the rest of the money into the bank so I could buy an RV. I've always wanted an RV because I do love travel and nothing would make me happier than being able to write while on the road. Tim is often away on business for days at a time, so the RV would give me an opportunity to get out of the house while he is away. After 6 months of deciding, I chose a lightly used RV and purchased it from the owners for a great price. When Tim found out I purchased the RV, he was excited. He has a travel trailer, but it's not the same as an all-in-one RV. He loves RVs and he wanted to immediately take it out for a trip across the state. We took our trip and Tim couldn't stop talking about how much he enjoyed the experience, and he started talking about taking more trips together. I gently reminded him that even though the RV is a fun thing for us to have for vacations, that its main purpose is for me to have something to do while he is away for business, but that we would be taking plenty of vacations together. Tim agreed with me and he let it go for a while. The thing is, in the past few weeks, Tim has been badgering me about taking the RV with him on his business trips. He usually flies when he goes to check his rental properties / visit family, and he is normally gone for 4 to 5 days at a time. We got into an argument because he had to evict a tenant and he wanted to drive the RV across the state in order to do so. I asked him if I could come along, and Tim said he would prefer it if I didn't. I then said if I couldn't come with him, then he couldn't take my RV. I suggested that he take his travel trailer instead, and he got mad and stormed out the house. About an hour later, he started texting me like nothing had happened, and then he said he was taking the RV as if our previous conversation had never happened. I called him and tried to explain that he had just purchased a brand new pickup, and that if I didn't get to drive his new truck in his absence, why should he get to take my RV when I'm not coming on the trip? Tim and I went back and forth, and eventually he said I could come along if it meant that much to me. I said I would, and now I am regretting everything. I'm sitting in the back of my own RV with a man who won't let me touch the wheel. It has been 3 days since this trip has started, and all Tim has done is rant about how awesome the RV trip would be if I weren't with him. It has made me question everything in our marriage, from how we split our finances to how we argue and function together. This is the first time that anything like this has ever happened, and I don't know what to do in this situation. He's still ranting as I type this, and he's never done that before either. Edit. Hey guys, I've read all your comments and advice. I don't know what I'll do yet, but I will update later. Second edit. Hey guys, I've read all your messages and I've got limited internet right now. A few of you concerned for my safety, and I just want to let you know I'm fine. I plan on confronting him later today. And we do have that update in a moment. And I'm just going to read this comment out because it was what was going through my head at the same time, but this comment says it better. One Kate says, there is no way these issues are about an RV and a pickup truck. You should get thee to a marriage counselor so you two can get to the bottom of whatever your real issues are. OP replies saying, counseling is worth a try, but I don't know if he'd be a willing participant at this point. I've never heard him be passive aggressive like this before. Usually he is brutally honest about his feelings. If I can find a good time to suggest it, I will, but if that moment never comes, I'm probably going to leave. And as I type this comment, I realize I've been walking on eggshells around him, and that's not fair at all. Six of Swords says, the first major thing you buy with your own money, and suddenly he can't resist having it to himself. OP replies saying, pretty much, it feels really shitty to be honest. I don't even own a car because our city has great public transit. The RV is my only vehicle besides my motorcycle. And one more from All the Vultures who says, I haven't seen anyone else make this comment, and I hope I'm reading more into the situation than is actually there, but it sounds much like there is an ulterior motive here. Again, I really hope I'm wrong, but is there any way he could have been planning to do something nefarious behind your back and wanted to use your RV to make it more convenient? I mean, it's got a bed in it. I don't know why I was thinking Breaking Bad there, the bed. My head, man. OP says, it crossed my mind, I won't lie. If he is, it makes this situation a lot easier, because then I will just leave. So then OP updated the post, which says, I promised I would update, but things got very hectic and this is the first chance I have gotten. This whole situation makes me very emotional, so please forgive me if this post is not as coherent as I would like it to be. When I posted my first post, we were on the road in the RV and my husband was giving me the cold shoulder while he bitched at me from the driver's seat. You all had some great advice for me about what I should do, and I listened to a few people who suggested that he might be cheating on me. Tim had left his iPad in the back of the RV to charge while he drove. I'm not proud of this, but I was able to sneak his iPad into the bedroom while he was distracted by the road. He was logged into his email account and I quickly skimmed over his inbox but didn't find anything suspicious. I then had the idea to check his sent folder and found out that he had been chatting up his ex from college. It made me sick to my stomach to read the messages, but luckily they had not yet been physical. Translated from chat speak, the message he had sent his ex was basically, I can't wait to get my hands on you. It's been years since I felt that mouth. I'm excited. I was disgusted, but I tried to keep calm. We're on the road heading to another state and we planned on stopping at his mother's house. I knew that if his messages were in the sent folder, that meant that he had deleted them. Tim was not planning on being caught and was trying to hide his tracks. He wanted my RV so that he could take his ex around the state and have fun without leaving a credit card trace. I took photos of the emails and sent them to myself in order to preserve the evidence. I then went back to the front of the RV and acted as if everything was fine. I apologized. Don't worry, I lied for how I acted and suggested that we ask his mum to help us to work through this. Tim said that he was sorry and that he accepted my apology. He said he was looking forward to using the RV in the future and that he was glad I'd come to see reason. I smiled and nodded, but on the inside I was cursing his existence. We made it to his mum's house and I made up an excuse about having to change because my clothes were wrinkled. Tim went inside without me and I started throwing all his clothes and belongings into a trash bag. I then went outside the house and Tim was sitting with his mum in the kitchen. He asked me what I was doing with the bag and I told him that I was giving him his clothes so that I could leave. Tim then got angry and asked me what the fuck I was doing, and his mum was simply confused. She asked me what was going on and I told her, I'm not sure myself. I'm waiting for Tim to explain why he was planning to cheat on me with his ex. Tim's mum then started to cry and yell at Tim while he tried to calm her down. I know Reddit does not have a lot of love for religion, but Tim's mother is a fundamentalist. She had loved me from the minute Tim introduced me to her, and it would be an understatement to say she was very upset with her adulterous son. Tim never tried to apologize to me. Instead, he chased after his mother saying he was sorry to her. This made her cry harder because she knew that he wasn't even trying to make amends with me. He was just apologizing to her. She hugged me and told me to just go home. She would handle her son. I thanked her and took the RV keys from Tim. This ended up being a minor wrestling match and left. I drove home crying, but at least I got rid of my asshole ex-husband. Tim called me the next day and begged me to come back to him. He said it was all a mistake, that he was sorry. I asked him why he didn't apologize at his mother's house, why he didn't say he was sorry when I was handing him his bag. I told him that he didn't care about cheating on me, that all he cared about was how bad it made him look to his family. He tried to explain himself, but I cut him off and hung up. I blocked him on all social media and haven't heard anything since. I've gotten a lawyer and I've already started the divorce process. I can't imagine being in the back of that RV like she was there and finding these emails that he was planning to cheat, and you must be sat there like absolutely fuming, but to be able to keep your cool, I'd be like, you motherfucker. But her kept her cool and went to the front and just acted as if everything was normal. Till she was able to get the RV herself was just the right way to play things, I think. Because having that confrontation while driving, anything could have happened. So she waited for a moment that she could control the situation, which I think was the perfect way to deal with it. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time, as always, means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today